Hello and welcome back to London Cycle Routes. Today I'll be showing you how to cycle from Westminster in central London to Stratford in East London. This ride takes about 40 minutes and you can do the whole thing on quiet streets and protected cycle lanes. By public transport, the same journey takes around 30 to 35 minutes. So cycling is still a great option even though there's a fast tube link between these two places. If you find this video useful or you just enjoy watching it, then please don't forget to subscribe to the channel as I try to post new videos just like it every week. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to everybody who supports the channel on Patreon. If you'd like to contribute too, then you can find a link in the description below the video. Alright, let's get going. So we're starting on Parliament Square and we're going to turn right around and use the protected cycle lane up towards the embankment. One thing you might notice about this video is that it was shot in the winter and it was also shot pretty early in the morning, so it's still not quite daylight yet. I know that in the winter some people like it when I publish summer videos in the sun so they can get that hit of vitamin D. Likewise, I thought that this nice crisp winter video would help some people cool down a bit during this sweaty heat wave that we're having at the time of publication. For anyone unfamiliar with the embankment cycleway, which is also known as Cycleway 3, it is a two-way protected lane running alongside the river, and it's really good. Running by a river is the perfect place to put a cycleway like this, as it doesn't have to interact with any side roads and you can just ride along it continuously, more or less without interruption. That's why you do see similar riverside cycleways in other cities. Paris has one on either side of the Seine, for example. On our right coming up here is Cleopatra's Needle, an ancient Egyptian obelisk which actually has very little to do with Cleopatra. It's actually much older, one of the oldest things in the city in fact, about 3,500 years old, and it would have already been about 1,500 years old when the famous Cleopatra VII was around. It was actually given as a gift by the Prime Minister of Egypt in 1819, but it wasn't actually brought to the UK until 1877, believe it or not, because of concerns about shipping costs. It's certainly nice to have something to look at while you cycle down the river, although I can't help but think that considering how ancient it is, it maybe deserves a slightly more prominent position than this forgotten bit of the embankment. But yeah, let me know what you think of that in the comments. Because of my schedule, I don't often manage to get out and shoot videos during weekday commuter times, but I think I'm going to try and do my best to do it more often. I really like how there are more people around cycling and it makes the city feel very lively, and the sunrise on the horizon, as you can see from this shot, is a really nice bonus too. I also think that shooting at this time of day paints a slightly more representative picture of what commuting by bike in the rush hour is like, which I'd guess is more helpful for more people who are tuning into this channel. You're almost never doing it without lots of people cycling around you, which I think makes it feel less daunting if you're just starting out or thinking of getting into going to work by bike. In a moment we're going to be turning into Castle Baynard Street, which is very quiet and feels like a big cycle lane most of the time. It isn't a cycle lane though, it's a street, and that's an important distinction as you will occasionally get the odd vehicle going down here, so just make sure that you're prepared for that. I think the City of London actually has plans to partly demolish and redevelop Baynard House, which is the big brutalist office block which this tunnel is integrated into. It's not clear to me from the plans that I've seen what will happen to the cycle route here, so I guess that's definitely something worth keeping an eye on over the coming months and years as those plans develop. Baynard House, by the way, was the site of the British Telecoms Museum from 1982 until 1997. That sounds like a really interesting museum, and there doesn't seem to be an equivalent now, which is a shame, as I would like to visit. All the Baynard references there, by the way, are because it was the site of a Norman fortification called Baynard's Castle, and later a Tudor palace on the same site of the same name. They found lots of remains of both buildings whilst building the current Brutalist office block, which is on the site there. There is another cool change planned for this area in the next few years. The city has actually proposed cycle lanes on Queen Victoria Street between Blackfriars and Mansion House, which would run parallel to the route we just took and create a new route into the city, plus connections to the traffic calm streets around Bank Junction. You can of course get to Bank by taking this route and then taking a left at any of the streets along here really. Now I'm really enjoying the early morning sun low in the sky ambience of this ride so far, and probably the coolest visual is just around the corner coming up, and that's the reflection of All Hallows by the Tower church spire in the glass facade of this building up ahead. Doesn't that look cool? That church was founded in the year 675 and it survived the Great Fire of London in 1666, but was then badly damaged later in the Blitz during the Second World War. It was notably the wedding venue of John Quincy Adams, the 6th President of the United States of America, who got married there in 1797. John Quincy Adams was actually born in Massachusetts, but he was over in Europe because his dad, John Adams, the 2nd President of the United States, worked as a diplomat over here. Now, in a moment, we're going to turn off Cycleway 3 down Mansell Street. Mansell Street is a safe link between Cycleway 3 and Cycleway 2. It's a great little scheme because it filled one of the biggest missing links in London with just a small bit of protected track, but which made a huge difference, I think. Transport for London doesn't really have much cash at the moment, and if it's focusing its cycle investment anywhere, I think it should be on missing links like this, where it creates safe, continuous routes for the minimum expenditure. It's a bit rough and ready. As you can see, there are times where you have to use toucan crossings shared with pedestrians, so do be sensible on those, but it's certainly a lot better than the situation before, and the link between C3 and C2 is really welcome and creates a really long, safe, continuous route. Now, coming up at the end of a street, there's an unusual arrangement to help you turn right. It's called a cycle gate, and I'll show you how it works here. As the lane approaches the cycle gate, you'll get a red light, but that light will turn green and let you in front of the other cars, but you'll get another red light and you'll have to wait. Then when that turns green, you'll always have a guaranteed head start over the other traffic. The benefit of that is that it's safer than mixing with the traffic. You're always in front, but the downside of it is that you will always basically one way or another hit a red light, so it is a little bit slow. I think the reason that TfL uses that system is to try and make these routes safe whilst also preserving traffic capacity through junctions, which is something that they're quite preoccupied with. I have also seen those gates, including that one, go wrong at rush hour. They do tend to overload, so if a car just stops in the waiting area, then it causes a big problem, or maybe the junction hasn't cleared, so they're not foolproof at all, but it's a useful way of allowing people to make that right turn at what is quite a busy and can be quite intimidating junction otherwise. Now, we're on Cycleway 2 here, and we're currently heading east through Whitechapel. The big design difference between C2 and C3 is that while C3 is a two-way cycle track on one side of the street, Cycleway 2 has separate lanes for each direction. So eastbound now we're on this side of the street, but westbound you'd be in a protected lane on the other side. I say protected lane, but actually there are points like this one coming up where you are not in a protected lane. Unfortunately, when Cycleway 2 was built, the traders at Whitechapel Market kicked up a big fuss pulled some political strings and made sure that there was no protection alongside the market. The result was that you have to share a bus lane here. It's a relatively short stretch and it's not awful if you're a confident cyclist, but it does need sorting, I think, so that can be made comfortable for all users, not just people who are already comfortable using a bike. Fortunately, after we cross the street here and we go onto Mile End Road, which is the continuation of this street after Whitechapel, we do get protected lanes again, and there are also protected lanes in the opposite direction going through Whitechapel Market on the side that the market isn't. Parts of Cycleway 2 can sometimes feel rather hectic when it's at its busiest, but it certainly didn't feel hectic on the morning that I filmed this, and it was actually a really lovely ride with the sun low in the sky. But you should watch out for certain things that happen along here. One of those is, like we just saw with that minivan, cars turning into side roads and also cars poking out of side roads without checking for bikes are a hazard and really quite dangerous. That isn't something that's specific to this cycleway though, or even specific to cycleways of this design. It's just a good time to remind yourself that you do need to be aware of those hazards when you're cycling, especially when you're cycling on cycle lanes. Now, today's route is relatively straightforward. It's mostly got good wayfinding, and because it's on the main roads, you don't really need to worry about getting lost. But if you do need a bit of extra help following this route or any other route that I do on this channel, then you can always download the free map that I've done of it. This is uploaded to a website called Komoot, and you can either use their app or just download it as a GPX file and use it on whatever app or device you like. It is a standard format that basically works on all of them. I do these maps for all the videos I do, and if I don't mention them in the video itself, people always inquire in the comments, so I thought I'd point it out. This is also a good time to mention that a viewer called Isaac maintains a map that compiles all those maps into a single Google map, which is a great way to browse all the different videos available on the channel by area. That's linked below too. Cool thing overhead that you might not have noticed, that gold bridge with the grass on top of it, is actually a green bridge linking the two sides of Mile End Park over this road. You can actually cycle on it as well, and it makes a nice alternative to the Regent's Canal towpath, which can get a little bit busy around here. If you're enjoying this video so far, then please do me a favour and leave a like on YouTube. It really does boost it in YouTube's algorithm and it helps other people find it. If you like what we're doing on the channel, you should also hit subscribe, which is free and just means that my videos are more likely to appear on your YouTube homepage in future. And if you really like what we're doing here, then you can always throw money at me on the Patreon linked in the description below the video, along with all the maps. Thanks so much to everyone who does that already. The channel is a lot of work and it could not happen without your support, so I'm very, very grateful. As you can see, the segregation on the cycle lanes down Cycleway 2 is reasonably consistent. There are a few bits where you have to share bus lanes, but generally they're either a curb, a step track, or plastic ones like this, keeping you separate from the cars. The overall effect is pretty reasonable, although I do think that it does fall short of some of TfL's more recent work. Compare this to, say, Cycleway 9 in Hammersmith or Cycleway 4 down to Greenwich, and really there's no comparison. This is a little bit on the ropey side, but I think it's just about good enough. That said, I would love to see it revisited and upgraded to modern standards. One of the issues that you can see is just here at this bus stop bypass. The reason that I was so cautious about going through this puddle was that I have in the past gone through puddles, got a load of water on the lens, and then it's ruined the whole video because you can't really see what's going on as there's water on the lens of the camera. Maybe not such an issue for most people, but it was for me. There's another cycle gate here, by the way, and I just want to stress how absolutely important it is for you to obey the traffic lights on the Bow roundabout just here. Bow roundabout was a casualty hotspot for cycling back in the day, and there was a huge campaign to get it fixed. The cycle gate was what we got, and for the most part it works if you use it properly. So use the cycle lane rather than the general traffic lane when you're passing through that roundabout, and make sure that you obey the lights, as they are specifically timed to remove conflicts with other vehicles. If you ride in the general traffic lane, then there's still a risk of you being left hooked by a turning vehicle, and it just seems like a needless risk to expose yourself to. I've always found this last stretch down Stratford High Street towards the station really quite weird. It's a big road with lots of tall housing blocks along it, and that's a really unusual sight in London, but it's simultaneously a really common mode of development around the world. So this last stretch feels really unlike the rest of the city in quite an uncanny way, but also feels weirdly familiar and reminiscent of a lot of other cities that you or I might have visited, I think. It's particularly notable for having very few people out and about on the pavements, even at rush hour when this has been filmed, despite seemingly having very dense housing along its whole length. Though as you get closer to the station, things do gradually improve and the pavements do tend to fill up a little bit. I'm not really sure that I like this urban form much, as it does feel a bit empty and dominated by traffic. If you keep an eye out on the right coming up, you can see some of the original buildings of Stratford High Street, which are pretty attractive and good looking and in a pretty good state, but they do feel out of place with a big multi-lane highway running in front of them. Maybe one day someone will transform this whole road into a tree-lined boulevard with trams running along it. But until then, I'm just glad that it has decent cycle infrastructure. There's a two-stage crossing to get over the road here, and then you turn left into Great Eastern Street, which is our final approach towards Stratford Station. Before we get there, keep an eye out on the left for Stratford Bus Station with its iconic canopy design. Incredibly, this was completed in 1994 and designed in-house by what was then London Transport. To me it feels at least a decade, maybe two younger, and must have looked positively space-aged when it was finished in the first half of the 1990s. But anyway, we've made it all the way from Westminster to Stratford. Thanks for coming along for the ride. It's a pretty straightforward route this week, and I'm surprised that I hadn't filmed this one, as it uses two of central London's kind of premier commuter routes strung together. Do let me know what you think of filming at this time of day as well. Did you enjoy seeing the sun rise through the video, or would you rather I just filmed in the bright daylight like I usually do? Let me know in the comments. Please do leave a like to help others find the video, and hit subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And thank you once again to everybody who supports London Cycle Routes on the Patreon. If anyone else is feeling incredibly generous and wants to pitch in, then there's a link in the description below. I will see some of you in the comments below, and the rest of you I'll see you next week. Goodbye.